Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Funky Marketing Show. One more in a row. Today, I have the pleasure to welcome a special guest. Actually, it's quite a character, I'd say, like a young guy who has a background in sales, now working in marketing, also interesting in math, it's weightlifting, and he is managing to put everything in one place all together, starting to build a brand for himself and all kind of different things. So we're going to talk about marketing, we're going to talk about sales, about connection between the two, about personal branding and many other things. So allow me to introduce to you Michael Phillips.
How's it going?
It's going good. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me. Just excited to chat.
Let me just check if everything is okay. Should be okay. So I mean, you have quite an interesting background. So let's see. I want to go not from you presenting yourself, but I want to talk more about, let's say, how did you end up in sales, and then start from there, and then we're going to develop the story.
Sure. So, my career, I don't know anyone that really has too linear of a career path, but mine is particularly curvy. So, I started out of high school certain, because we all know ourselves so well when we're 17, that I wanted to be a mechanical engineer, that I wanted to design cars and engines and energy systems. Um, but I was always in the design projects the person who was eager to present the design to the panel. And that made me feel like I was the only extrovert in a room, when I myself really am kind of more ambiverted. I'm kind of halfway in between. And I did, anytime I had the chance to tell not just what engineering solutions did, but the story of the impact that those designs and the solutions would have, that was where I felt the most passionate. And so basically, how that aligned with timing is I was in college and I had to have a paid internships, but this time of the time that it was, there was a large recession in the United States, and paid internships were not really a thing in that time. So I wound up taking leave from my studies for a period of time, and I went into sales. And the reason I went into that was largely because of my grandfather. He was a career salesperson. He served in the Marine Corps, and then they advised him into sales. And that was about all the career advising you got back then. So he made a life out of just commissioned sales, and he did relationship selling. And I feel like he was very ahead of his time because he kind of took care of me a lot as a kid, and we spent time together. And he always advocated for, knowing how to build relationships. And this is like 40s, 50s, 60s. Like relationship selling wasn't a thing back then. He was the weird one, I think, if you think in the context of the time and where the
Definitely.
profession was at. And so, and then like as a kid, from age 7, 8, 9 and up, and we would go shopping for something, and he would make me talk to the salespeople. So I had all of this practice of interactions from a young age. I didn't know he was teaching me. I thought I was just hanging out with grandpa, you know what I mean? But he taught me all of these tricks about how to understand when something wasn't the right fit, how to unsell something from that people might think they want but isn't the right thing, and how to look in the long term of a relationship that you might not close something today, but you're drawing people in by building a community of trust. And these things I'm saying now are like this is like the cutting edge of where we are today. But he was 65 something years old taking care of a little kid 20 years ago, and it's like he knew this stuff and he made a career for himself on it and did very well. So I took all that inspiration and I went into sales, mostly because I didn't have a degree and it was kind of hard to get a job anyway in that time of the economy that we had. But sales was kind of meritocracy. If you could do it, you could succeed reasonably well. And I did retail, I did wholesale, I did technical sales for engineering software, I did wholesale, like B2B selling, and eventually I had an opportunity to pivot into a sales and marketing kind of combined leadership role at a startup. And that's when the marketing bug bit me, that I could do everything I loved about sales, but at scale.
Yeah, you reminded me of. I didn't even realize that that this is what was happening when I was a kid. Huh? You reminded me of that. Like my sister was always the needy one. I want this. I want this. I want this. I want this. So she doesn't stop until she gets something. And I was like, can I just take a look at it? But when the time goes by, I was like, I look at things. I don't want them to buy me uh, anything, just so I don't want them to spend money and those kind of things. And then they buy me something. They don't buy anything to my sister. So I realized, there's a pattern here. So yeah, interesting how this relationship with grandfathers and grandmothers are teaching us things.
You pull inspiration from unsuspecting places in your life, right? And I think my education in business coming from these relationships only cemented my desire to continue having learning through mutual relationships, like you and I getting to know each other, and in so many other places now through social media. I've connected with people I would never have otherwise met in an analog world, in an offline world. This relationship being one of them.
Yeah, exactly. I remember when we connected just to have a virtual coffee and chat about things, and but so tell me, do you see that you have like a feel that you have a different perspective, like as somebody working with marketing and having a sales background, than if you just went right into the marketing and then you needed to learn a couple of things about sales? It's totally reverse a path.
That's a good point. I think it is kind of reverse of what a lot of people that are established marketers do go through. I think a lot of them maybe either have an affinity for design or for writing. They find an application for that in business and do marketing. And then they learn about what it takes to sell and to do the business as a second step. I do think it's an interesting perspective. I didn't think it was interesting at first because it just was my normal, but I do think that talking to other professionals that I've met through LinkedIn, that it is different to have someone who kind of crosses the front and back half, front of the house and back of the house, to use like a restaurant lingo of sales and marketing. So yeah, to me, the difference in my mindset is that I understand how invaluable it can be to really know a customer and know their needs, to know that despite the fact that, especially in B2B, that we all pretend, or at least tell ourselves that we're rational decision makers, we are all emotional decision makers at the end of the day too. Because in sales, you start to learn that when you have a relationship with a prospect and you're moving them through a journey, that you want to understand, what are their frustrations? We talk about like business pain points a lot, like how do we leverage and press on the pain point to position the product as a salesperson? But, maybe part of that pain is friction with their boss over inefficiency. Maybe part of that pain is the office politics that they got to deal with, or the fact that they have been at a company for 15 years and they're stuck at the level they're at and they're looking for a way to distinguish themselves. Yeah, that none of that has anything to do with your B2B solution, but that can do a lot for bringing them into a realm of trusting you if you can understand their emotional state. And people need to buy into you and trust you before they're going to buy anything that you're selling. So when I moved into marketing, I in the early roles and in the roles since, I think about how to leverage connections and storytelling to build that trust, to be a trusted advisor as a brand. Just the same way I used to do it as an individual salesperson. They used to come to a store and they're like, oh, no, I don't want to deal with this sales rep. I want to deal with Mike. Or they used to, a competitor would come calling and they're like, no, I'm going to stick with Mike. I've got, his company, he's representing a brand. I'm going to stick with them. And as a sales rep, that feels really great that you have an established advisory trust and you know that. And that still goes on. And I think that marketers that are missing that perspective don't know how much similarity there is between sales and marketing in trying to achieve that level of trust, not just at an individual level, but at scale between an audience and a brand as opposed to just an individual person and an individual sales rep. It's the same psychology. It's just brought to a larger scale.
Yeah, indeed. But let's go. I'd say a step back, but maybe it's not a step back. Maybe it's a step front. So I guess I think we talked about it, that you were a first marketing person in a company, right? When you started.
Mm-hmm.
How was that feeling? Coming usually, I see young people coming to work, and they see it as as a great opportunity, coming to be the first person in marketing. But if you don't have experience behind you, at least some maybe in different fields, that you know what you need to do and where you need to get who to ask, those kind of things, then it can be a pretty terrible experience. So how it was for you?
Sure. So, in all fairness, like in my current role, as I think something we mentioned was that I the department existed, right? So there was a marketing department, and we had designers who are extremely gifted and talented individuals, and we had people who knew the industry inside and out, forwards and backwards. Which honestly, in B2B, you can't replace that. It's a really valuable perspective to have. But I saw myself in joining the team as the first, like, maybe dedicated, like, tactical marketer who understands customer psychology, customer journey, who knows best practices from outside an organization. And where I work now, it was a sales-led organization first and foremost. It's the way it was founded. A lot of companies are founded on a sales first because it's a quick return, right? You can start a deal today, and your sales cycle later, you can predict a certain amount of closes. And so, accelerated by the pandemic, we kind of just started needing to build out an amazing digital presence from an amazing brand, a brand that's very strong, that is a leader in the industry and a premium provider in the industry. But it was in an industry that was a late adopter of a lot of digital, and then the brand itself was slightly a step or two behind some competitors. That has since been kind of recast in a lot of what I'm working with. And coming in that perspective, it's not really all that different than I think what a lot of marketers are experiencing, in that we try to, teach and prove the efficacy of a lot of best practices when status quo worked for so long. And it's hard when you have good proof that what you were doing worked, how good the thing you could be doing could work better. And so a lot of that involves projections and forecasting and being able to do case studies or point to examples where it's used elsewhere. It involves building, deep relationships with leadership, and that's kind of also links back to why I think the sales background was very helpful to me, because I could sell marketing internally. I could build relationships internally and say, hey, I'm going to build trust, why you should, have me as an advisor, not just on my experience, but as a personal level. And this is really a sense of vision of what marketing can become. And now we're really starting to influence the industry as a whole. We have people showing up at our digital events, or even talking to our sales rep in person, talking about our marketing efforts, and it's become an evolution of sorts. And I know that's maybe not a common story where a lot of people that come in get to influence that amount of change, but it has just been an excellent a gift of a project to be able to make that sort of impact, and to just to live the journey of almost a startup marketing department in an established business is almost the closest analog. Because I've worked in a startup and I've worked in established. It was a hybrid approach to do that. Very interesting to experience.
Sounds good. Sounds like you had your back to kind of experiment some things and make some mistakes, because in startups you experiment all the time, but you don't have the back, because there isn't a brand in the making yet.
Especially when there's a legacy brand, right? When you have a brand that's established, the risk of damage is so much greater, or at least the perceived risk of damage is so much greater. There's a much greater depth of protectionism almost, that you want to safeguard what may have been built over 30 years or so. And now they're like, oh well, now we're posting out there. What if somebody says something bad? I'm like, we're gonna have a process for that. Well, what if two people say something bad and they start talking to each other? I'm like, then we need to have people who say good things there too. And so it's going into, it's not a Wild West. It's just a shepherding of all that we have offline, because people are people, right? So people are on the internet even if they're not on there for business. People are on social media even if they're not having a business page there. So in B2B, like, we could say our customers aren't somewhere, but like a third of the Earth's population is on Facebook. You know what I mean? There's 750 million users on LinkedIn. Chances are they're there, even if they're not there under the business umbrella. So to me, that's what it became, is just finding the audience and building that community and showing our people are there. They're just not used to interacting with us in that platform and in that way.
Yeah, and we always need to kind of adapt the tone of voice and everything to the platform, not just talking our
Absolutely.
as
That was a big pivot, is
how
moving,
we
like,
would like.
your trade show, moving your trade show language and your cut sheet, like paragraphs and like a contract language. That's not going to fly on social media. Nor should social media language fly in a contract. That you have to do a tonal shifting, and style shifting is actually a sales skill. When we talk about alignment between the two, speaking the way your prospect speaks so that you feel you're mirroring and you feel, and it's a rapport building technique. It works as an individual level, and then it works in marketing at scale too.
Yeah, sounds good. I didn't think about it that much. Have to agree. Even though we're working with aligning marketing and sales, I didn't think that much of that point.
That's part of the thing, I think, of that uniqueness of having a little bit of the background. I'm sure it's not one of them kind. I'm sure there's other marketers out there that had some sales experience, but seeing interdisciplinary connections is, I think, a very valuable thing for innovation. Style shifting and rapport building, style shifting is a key part of that psychology. And that directly has a correlation in marketing. And into that, and sometimes finding that connection is a great way to get more buy-in from leaders who might be hesitant, because you can then speak their language by showing them that this is actually a sales tactic that you like. We're just going to apply it at scale. And then they're like, oh, it's like I have 100 sales reps, not 3. And they're like, yeah, it's kind of like that. And it gets you close enough to the conversation, especially if they don't have direct marketing experience themselves from having worked in a marketing role.
Yeah, agree. So thinking about the reports and all the tech that we are using, like Philip is just talking about restream platforms and those kind of things. So you had an interesting post when you talked about marketing being over-reliant of technology, and I'm seeing that thing as well, because I don't see many teams that go try out, map out the process and everything, and then scale it with technology as they should be doing. But they expect
Right.
technology to solve everything for them. If it was lead generation, now it's ABM. They just if I invest in the right tool, it will solve everything for us, right?
This is the silver bullet solution, right? That's the mindset. And it's unfortunate. I think it's stifling to innovation, personally, because a tool or a software should serve the strategy. You shouldn't build the strategy to fit your tool, right? But a lot of the reliance on technology, we do just the latter. We wind up changing what we try to do as marketers because it fits into the attribution model, because we need that to get the buy-in at the leadership level for the budget and for the time and for the focus of the department. And that's not the fault of the software producers. They're trying to build a tool to serve ABM, or they build a tool to serve multi-touch, or whatever it is that they're doing. Some of them are now trying to do all of it in one. I don't blame them for creating a tool that solves a need. I think the biggest risk when it comes to friction, if you will, from the marketing department to executive leadership is just that when you have a leader who doesn't have direct experience, and I mean this in the sense of a role building, executing tactics or building marketing strategy, they rely on these technology softwares that build dashboards to show things in a way that connect back to business results. But because it has to go through the tech filter, then there's only so much input will work for a computer program's output. And that can limit like you said, we don't do sampling or testing of brand campaigns or things that have unclear ROI, right? Especially even in a publicly traded company, you know, you have shareholders, they don't like long ROI. They want to have quarterly results. And when you have venture capital investments at a startup, they want to see returns in a certain period of time. So it's really difficult when you don't know that a content marketing engine takes 18 months to get up and running. SEO can take 6 to 12 months to get up and running. And why those things matter in the long term, it's very difficult to it's like, you know, I use the analogy of like if you're looking at a cube, you know, if the business is your business strategy, and you're looking at, you can look at it and you can see a square. You can turn it and you can see that there's two faces, and you can even tip it and you have an isometric view and you can see the top, the left, and the right. But unless you've stood in other positions in the company, marketing, execution, marketing strategy, in sales, in product, you don't know that the back of the cube is green when the front of the cube is red. You think it's telling you to stop, but really you need to go. And you need that holistic view by having all those different perspectives. And for me, the biggest thing is, I think, to kind of fill this gap, shift this like over-reliance on technology to where technology serves innovation. To make that shift, we need to take executive candidates, people that are otherwise perfectly qualified for the job of a chief executive or whatever X you want to put in CXO, and make sure that they also, not replacing anything, have marketing experience. And I think without that, you have the leaders of today that came up through the vertical of sales, or they came up through the vertical of finance, or they rose through product/engineering, and they know the things you need to know to run a business. It's, you know, mid-market or higher. And I'm not taking anything away from those skills, especially as somebody who's been interdisciplinary in my career. But I think you would want to add that additional piece of knowledge, of perspective to a candidate, to make sure they also have run marketing. And then marketing doesn't serve sales. And then marketing isn't a risky investment. Marketing isn't something that we need to make sure fits into the attribution model so that it's safe. Then it becomes something of, no, I've done this. I know it takes 18 months, or at least I've worked interdisciplinary with it. I've worked interdepartmentally with it. And that you need those perspectives, I think, to have that deep understanding of what it takes for marketing to succeed and align the growth model of a company. Otherwise, when you're not informed, your instinct is incomplete, and that can be really dangerous for an organization. Not that you'll ruin the organization, but that you're handicapping your growth. Because, you know, uninformed instinct is just ignorance mistaken for perspective, right? So if you don't know what you don't know, but you think you do, you're claiming that you have a perspective, but unfortunately it's ill-informed. And really, this isn't a question about knocking CEOs that don't get marketing. This is more of how do we arm them to be the most efficient and effective leaders that they can, because marketing is, in more often than not, I think, underutilized in the growth models of companies.
Yeah.
Thankfully, missing knowledge is a solvable problem, right? You can add new knowledge to existing leaders. They don't need a time machine. They don't need to go back into their career and, I got to go back. And you can apprentice with your team as an executive. Just go work for somebody, like go work for your director of marketing for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Or for 3 days if you're a busy executive. You know what I mean? Just do an apprenticeship program and actually you don't have to all be an expert in Photoshop or an expert in video editing or something. But like sit there and actually see how much work it takes, and then show that, hey, that thing we did a year ago, look what it's doing for us today. And like that in the trenches granular approach, I think, can fill out missing perspective. Just any sort of learning at that level, I think, is just so valuable for an executive.
Yeah, I'm listening to you, and I'm putting myself in a position of a C-level executive listening to us, and how much they would laugh at that point, you know. But it's actually a very good point, and it doesn't take that much of their time, you know.
Exactly. I know executives are busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Executives are so busy, but I think, you know, it's part of it is, I guess, me being used to sales, and like I used to pitch the C-suite in B2B sales all the time. Like they're people too, right? Like sometimes we get that sense that there's somehow a different class of being, but we're all, you know, we're all just the same people in the same room. And I think, you know, if you can connect marketing is important to business for these reasons. You as a leader will lead more effectively. The business will grow better because of better judgment when you have these holes in your perspective filled in. That's an easy conclusion to make, and it's tangible. You can see the results right away.
Yeah, and I think like, look, a lot of marketers, maybe salespeople understand it better because they're used to selling things. Like marketers often don't realize that part of their job is to sell the solution to the CEO. You know, because they need to
Yes.
sell things internally, to do the marketing internally, so that everybody that works in a company understands what we are selling, what's the additional value that we are giving. If they don't understand it, how can they go and sell to the others? You know, and CEO, how could he give you the bigger budget or whatever it is if he doesn't understand, you know, what you are doing, what your function, or he is looking at marketing function as something that is here just to, you know, to give materials to the sales, or just
Right.
to get MQLs or something like that, because that's how they have been taught. Nobody told them that it can be a little bit different, you know. And
Yeah.
I'm talking with more and more you know, executives that are, you know, coming to me exactly with the point that, you know, we need more leads, so we need somebody in marketing, either an agency or to hire somebody to help us do that. And you know, so I asked them, how do you behave? You know, like, okay, we are like more expensive than the other products in the field, so we don't sell right away. So those that pitch us, that come to us leads, they are not good. So why do you hire somebody to get you the leads when this is not how you sell? Well, I don't know. Like, we have the longer sales cycles because the return is in 5 to 7 years. So we
Right.
sell practically all the time. But to be able to sell them, we need to educate them to see value, because we are more expensive than the others. Like, but you are doing then completely the opposite thing with the way you set up the whole process.
Right. And it's not a deliberate mistake. It's not a deliberate bad decision. It's not a malicious attack on the marketing profession.
Yeah.
It's an unknown unknown, as they say, right? It's a blind spot. And I think, complementary knowledge goes a long way in curing that. And I think if your goal is to have an organization that is internally aligned, all stakeholders, if it's sales, product, marketing, service, and to and if you have whatever you call the leader, if it's you have VP of sales, VP of marketing, if you have CMO, chief revenue officer, eventually all of them have to come up under somebody who makes the decisions. And therefore, whatever that structure winds up being, that person should be able to speak to what each of those departments can do. And yeah, most people rise through a single vertical, right? Like I'm odd. Like I did engineering, and then I did sales, and then I did marketing. But a lot of people will pick finance and they go straight up through finance. They hit the CFO, they go CEO at some point in some company, and they wind up as a category expert in business knowledge. And so you lead from what you know best. And I think that's a good thing, but you need to be able to have that interdisciplinary connection. And especially when you try to make, marketing work, you want that bigger budget. A CEO needs to know, or a founder needs to know the efficacy, because they're going to have to go to the CFO and be like, hey, here's why I need all this money. And the CFO is going to be like, well, no, we don't want to spend the money, because that's their job, is to make the company profitable and to not constantly be writing checks all the
Yeah.
time. And so to be able to have informed conversation at that level is so important.
Yeah. So let's move things level down.
Mm-hmm.
And see how can we make actually marketing and sales work together, because there's lots of solutions in lots of different companies. Sometimes it's just they're under the CMO, and that's what aligns them, like weekly meetings when they share the same
Right.
ICP, the same results. Sometimes, sometimes they're under CMO, but they have the sales results, marketing as well, going with the same results, so they
Right.
can see, what they're going to. What's your perspective on it?
So to me, what I like to see is alignment. It's less about org chart, more about actions, about what we choose to do in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with like these all hands where you bring the teams together, but I think when it comes to building strategy and you look at strategic planning for a year ahead, or even a couple fiscal quarters ahead, that's where you should have a marketer and a sales leader at the table together. That when you are taking business objective of grow revenue this much, or launch a new product, or increase our share of market for this ICP, both sales and marketing should be part of integrating what is the strategy level of turning a business goal into a strategy that marketing can implement and a strategy that sales will implement, so they move forward together. We do this currently where I work now, where we have regular strategy meetings, leadership and sales, leadership and marketing, the person who combines our departments, we're all together. And we look at what are our business objectives. Okay, we want to achieve growth. We want to achieve growth with this new customer segment. We want to maintain our legacy customer segments, whatever the goals are. And we say, okay, what are the strategies in marketing and sales that achieve those business objectives? And then what tactics can we implement in sales and marketing that make those strategies happen? And I think there's something to be said, like when you can look at a single document at the end of a meeting and say, okay, there are 3 purple boxes for marketing, there are 2 green boxes for sales, and you know what? They all feed directly into this strategy that we as a group agreed is critical to achieve the business objective that the company needs to achieve. There's ownership, and at that point that maybe the reps building a personal brand online and engaging in social selling with content that marketing is building in parallel to what the regular organic cadence from the page is, how that syncs together to achieve the same goal. All of a sudden, it's not sales doing sales stuff, marketing doing marketing stuff. We now have everybody is stepping forward and marching together in order, and it feels more collaborative. I now get, just chat messages and emails from reps who are like, hey, I used that video you made, or oh man, this post is awesome, and I got a meeting out of this post. Are you kidding me, man? You wrote a post, I commented on it, and I got somebody who private messaged me and says, I want to have a meeting. The first time that happened, when a sales rep said that to me, they're like, all right, I believe in marketing now, right? They're like, okay, they're like a salesperson was like, we're in. And now that that's been happening for a period of time, it's just a stronger, now we have a case study that's not external. It's not a forecast. It's our own culture showing that it does work. And it's as big a lift as it is to build content marketing or to build brand over 12, 18 months. Building an internal culture around alignment can take just as much or longer, because you need that track. I think the culture building follows the same psychology as content marketing, where people build not just awareness, but an affinity for a brand. People then build an awareness of what marketing can do, and then an affinity for the impact it has inside the organization. Same psychology, same buy-in journey, for inside. And we're getting there now. And I think it's very exciting to see, the reps are like, oh, hey, have we thought about posting about this? And I'm like, well, why should we post about that? And they're like, oh, this is a shut up and take my money moment. Every time I say this in a sales call, they're like, end the call, sign me up, send me. And I'm like, do we need to be creating content about this if it's that effective? And when you do that, you then validate the two-way communication between sales and marketing. And I think that's the moment that it transcends just a habit or a practice of meeting or an organizational structure where we are then compelled to a point of desire, where it's like, oh no, I want to be friends with marketing, or I want to be friends with sales, and I want us to advance the vision together. So that's what alignment looks like to me. It's more than do you have to say CMO, CRO, or does it have to have a VP of sales and marketing and directors or whatever? That's less important as it is that the culture of practicing it shows that you can bring them together.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, like basically being friends, sharing insights, sharing things between them. Because like if marketing does a lousy job, like sales will have hard time as well, and who will be guilty?
Exactly.
Of course. Like, and if marketing does a good job, then sales will have more easier job in reaching out to people, because they will know who they are.
Exactly. And my favorite thing is like that. There was like an aha moment when I'm like, did you know that if you do brand marketing well, I can shorten your sales cycle? And they were like, you can do what now? Like there was the first. They were like, you can. They're like, I might as well told them that I can bend the laws of physics. Like it was kind of it was like a thing. It was just no. That's not set in stone. That's directly proportionate to how trusted the brand is and how primed the customers are before they even come to you. And they're like, it was like a moment of just like, if that was short, like their brain follows. If that was shorter, all of the impacts that would have on revenue, on the total pipeline, the number of deals we bring, and then of course, and then my commission, and then like so then there's like people who are like, oh, okay, I'm so excited to get on board with it, and yeah, it's just it's a better place to be in than oh, marketing is just feeding stuff to sales. Sales doesn't even really want it. The leads are weak, which is unfortunately so much more common. And I think if we can, just stop seeing them. They're not opposing forces to have sales and marketing. You know what I mean? It's really,
Yeah.
it's an opportunity department is like the way you would look at it, right? So it's a single department generating revenue opportunity, and there's different forces making that happen, and like that's the way I think that if we can do a mindset shift, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I think we have the new expression. So opportunity department. That's it. It sounds better than a revenue department. It sounds more realistic. Like here we have opportunity. We can achieve it if we work together.
Exactly. It's not just about because revenue still to me has the vibe of a sales first of it's about closing and obviously any job of a business is to bring in the revenue. But if we look at opportunity generating, if we bring in salespeople will tell you that it's a numbers game, right? A lot of sales is trusting the process, building a good sales process, and making enough calls, making enough outreaches, and not spamming people, but just continuously being there so that the day you catch them when they got ticked off at the old provider because something bad happened, they saw a piece of content that marketing had out there in a display ad that happened to talk about the same issue, and the sales rep calls them that day. It could be 12, 15 calls into the call history, but that's the day they're ready to move. What we did is we created that opportunity, and any good salesperson worth their weight in salt will be able to take that opportunity and do magic with it. But you're generating opportunity because the sales rep was calling frequently enough. Marketing was putting content out there and influencing affinity and influencing, priming them to be less, offended by a sales call on the same topic. To me, it's all about creating opportunity because good business people, marketing or sales, will turn opportunities into revenue. And I think if we just look at it that way, it's a much more unified approach.
Agreed. So here comes the question. Like I actually told my content guy, that I'm gonna ask you this because he's into weightlifting as well.
Okay.
And like when he, saw what you have written over there on your profile, and he was like, ask him the connection between weightlifting and marketing. Like, what's the connection? I want to get to know into that. So how do you see one thing and how do you see the other thing? I don't think that we have a chance for somebody to talk about these things at the same time very often.
Sure. No worries. Yeah, honestly, just strength training, weightlifting in general, it's just been just a part of who I am for the majority of my life. I began the journey of just improving my fitness and health like I was like third or fourth grade. So I don't know how old you are at that point, like 9, 10 years old, somewhere around there. Because I was the little overweight kid and I couldn't run very well. And, I was like the last person in gym class doing the laps and I was still out there finishing the 10 laps, like, I don't mean to make like a story out of this, but that like, it's a movie. It's like, it was like the little kid who's unfortunately unhealthy is becoming healthy. Right. And I just remember like, I got bullied and it was just not a good place to be in. And I started training just for the sake of like a feeling of self-confidence and honestly self-defense, to feel like if I was strong enough, I could take care of myself. And very quickly that chapter comes and goes so quick because, there's when you lift weights, they say that there's the beginner's luck, right? So your progress is very rapid in the beginning of training, and then you kind of hit a plateau. So I climbed out of the sense of feeling.
I never like realized that, because but I'm playing. I'm more of a basketball guy. I go to the gym as well,
Right.
but on a basketball, when I don't play like, I don't know, half a year because of the COVID, and then into the gym, like first time I'm gonna have 100 trees, but
Right.
tomorrow I'm not gonna hit anything. So basically,
Right.
it's the same, right?
It is. Any physical pursuit or anything in growth, like you have like an early learning curve. And this is true like even in knowledge training, right? Where in the beginning you learn a lot and it's that sophomoric feeling, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, "Oh, I know everything." And like it's but you really don't know that much, but you feel like you know a lot. And then as the time goes on, you realize how little you know, right? In physical training, it's a similar curve where like you gain initial progress and like my fitness level increased. I got a better body composition and whatnot as far as BMI and body fat percent, and then I hit this plateau of it's about where your body's trying to settle into. You're not making progress because the things that you did to get up that initial curve, your body has adapted to, and then you need to start doing progressive overload where you change how many reps you do or how heavy of a rep you do or the types of leverage that the exercises do for your body. And for me, there's a correlation to that in marketing because the things that you do initially to build excitement, oh, look at this ad we ran. So much conversion. This is awesome. Or this new email, this new content blog. And like, it's like, yay, this curve goes up and everybody's riding the high and then it just starts slowly decaying over time. And you're like, well, why is it over there? It was doing great. And now it's not, because psychologically, much like a human body, your audience becomes conditioned to the things that you're doing. There's a number out there it varies per industry, but I think it's like 7% natural attrition of subscribers will just leave because of natural churn and changes in a marketplace. And that's just the squirrel instinct in our brain of just, ooh, new shiny thing. I'm going to go try the new shiny thing. And in marketing, when consuming content or feeling there's value in content and in the effort that you're putting out there, the more consistency over time is important as far as delivery. But if you're talking about the same thing over time, eventually you're like, I've seen this. Okay, now I can skim it. Okay, now I can just kind of just read the title, and now I'm not going to read the subject line anymore, and now I'm not even going to open the email, and now I'm unsubscribing. Like there's a natural rate of decay unless you do progressive overload. So like in weightlifting, it would be, I moved 50 pounds yesterday. We'll try 55 pounds today. I want to do 10 reps. Maybe I only reach 9, but my body has received new stimulus and new feedback, and it continues growing and it adapts and it gets stronger. I see strength and brand as a lot of the same way. You know what I mean? It's an abstract thing that you then have to apply to give an application. I can be strong, but I can then use strength to do a specific sport, or I can use strength to do a specific physical chore or a task or something like that. A brand can have clout, can have power behind it, but then it's what you do with it that shows its true ability. Like, having a huge brand is one thing, but like if Apple is a huge brand, but if they didn't actually all of a sudden use their brand to make us believe we needed an iPad when nobody wanted an iPad when the iPad first came out, nobody was like looking for another tablet, but they were sure that once you saw it, you'd want it. And they used an established brand power to do that. And that's an application of brand strength. So, when I think about progressive overload, I think about the concept of you need to do repetitions at something. You know what I mean? You can't just lift a weight once and expect your nervous system to learn the patterns of muscle recruitment. And, for a bench press, like, if you do it just once, or if you do a 15 reps or whatever you do, the more repetitions that you do, your brain actually starts learning that firing pattern. And in marketing, I think when you do repetitions of posting every day for a personal brand or a company, you start getting that sense of muscle memory. You start getting a sense of, I'm now better at this task than I was before. And there's efficiency, there's better leverage to be attained. I get philosophical, so I apologize a little bit, but like some of these some of the points might seem a little esoteric, but I do, because I live in both worlds. My home office I'm in right now, I have this computer, I have my desk, and I have a squat rack that's like right there. It's I live in the dichotomy of these two things in my life coming together. So, there's so many aspects of what strength training can do. And the most valuable thing for me in it is 2 points. When you train every day to get better, you're not feeling the progress in the minute that you're doing the exercise. Today, I'm lifting 50 pounds, for example, and that's my best. And I maybe do a second set, and it's still my best. Or I do a third set, and maybe it's my best, but now I'm too tired and I fail, right? You don't see the change today. You don't see the change next week. But if you look at your workout journal from 6 months ago, from a year ago, you're like, I'm twice as strong as I was then. Or, I've gained this much muscle mass, or I've lost this much body fat. And I think when you look at that in the context of marketing, it's not the social post you write today. It's not the email you send today. It's not the blog post you write today. It's not even what you do this week and next week or next month. But when you look at the cumulative effect, growth is achieved through small, consistent moments of effort and consistency, of good form. And then over time, you reach the benefits of change. And like that's a huge piece of it for me. And it's just, that's informed my marketing and why I'm more comfortable with longer ROI and why I'm comfortable with these campaigns that can take a longer time to see results.
Sounds good. And additionally, what also saw while listening to you and breaking the patterns is like
Yes.
you lift weights like 10 times, then you go 10, but can I make one more? Then the next one,
Exactly.
or can I make one more?
Yes. Or you do, let's say you do this is advanced weightlifting, right? But let's say you're doing a bench press training because you're competing. You can bench press with the bar. You can bench press with the bar, and you can hang chains on the bar so that they crumple up on the ground when you go down. And then as you go up, they uncurl off the ground and the bar gets progressively heavier. Same movement, totally a different overload experience. And that breaks the pattern. Or you change from high reps to low reps. You know what I mean? And then that's part of what changes that plateau effect of growth that gets limited. And like organizations, a lot of times that happens. Like you start coasting of, I'm not just going to, live along at this organization. But now I'm in a pattern break, and then you get another bump, and then you get another bump, and another bump. And that's, I think, the job of marketing, to continue putting forth those ideas of pattern breaking and continuing to drive not allow complacency to set in of, okay, 4%, 3% per year is fine. Well, if you have an attrition of 7%, it's not fine. You're going to wind up contracting your business. You really need to do better than that. And that ties back to our earlier topic of you're not going to get that buy-in unless you have a leader who understands it too.
Agreed. So let's get into something more or less practical for the end as the last topic. And it is like, you are kind of a guy, I think if we keep talking, we will find more and more things. Like you also play sax, right?
Saxophone, yeah.
Yeah. So like saxophone, weightlifting, sales, marketing, grandfather. How do you mix it up and create your own voice? You had some framework that you were mentioning. Maybe we can include that. Like Ikigai framework, if I tell it right.
Sure.
I think yes, but yeah,
it is. Yeah, you nailed it. So sure, no, it is interesting, and self-awareness sometimes is tricky, right? Because we start looking at all these pieces of who we are and our history and the things we like today, and it doesn't always make sense how you can cross-disciplinarily combine them. I found I'm going to expose another part of myself that's just going to seem like another complementary piece. So I'm kind of like a hobby farmer gardener also outside of my work life. So I have like a rural property, and I have large gardens, and I've kept chickens and things like that. And one of the practices in that hobby field of my life is called permaculture. And the idea there is simply it's systems design, which plays to my engineering mindset, systems design for maintaining animals and food growth. And the idea is you take the waste of one vertical and you turn it into a fuel or an input for another vertical. So like manure is fertilizer. Too many vegetables grow, you can't consume them all, you feed them to the animals, and you create a system where things interconnect. In a book I was reading about permaculture was this Ikigai philosophy, and the idea comes from Japan, and it's the idea that kind of purpose at the center of what you want is something that needs to be durable. It can't be transient in that like a fragile balance, right? So it's like if you balanced a rock on top of another rock, it's very precarious. A wind can blow it over. You need something more stable, like a pyramid structure, right? Especially in professional purpose, right? So you're like, oh, I don't want to have a midlife crisis and throw away the first half of my life because I spent it on the wrong thing. Or a quarter life crisis is far more is common now too. So the framework is simple. It's looking at 4 aspects of life, and I do that. I'm drawing in my in front of my face, but it's a 4-circle Venn diagram where you've got the 4 circles overlapping, and it's if you look at 4 things about who you are, at the center is a way you can help find if your purpose is aligning in a way that will be lasting and durable. So it's something that you love to do, that you have a passion for, something that you're good at, something that the world needs, and something that you can earn a good living by doing. And the argument is that you need 4 legs of the table, so to speak, to give you stability in your solution. If you love something and the world needs it, but you're not good at it, you're not really going to be helping anybody, and chances are you're not going to be earning a fair living off of it, and you're going to wind up needing to leave that behind. If you earn a good bit of money and the world needs it, but you hate it, you're going to burn out personally. Like you're doing it, it's a job, but it's not a purpose, it's not a calling, right? And if it's like you can love something and be good at it, but if you don't earn money doing it, then you wind up in a situation where you're not caring for yourself or maybe your dependents in a financially responsible way. So there's all these sectors where you can get 3 out of the 4, and it's a close fit, but it's not lasting. So I use this framework a lot in some of the personal branding that I've done for myself and for some consulting personal branding work that I've done. And I even use it when I talk about building like a brand vision statement for a company, because it's so impactful to look at, okay, why does this organization exist, right? And it needs to be lasting because we want our organizations to last. We're not doing business for 10 years and closing shop. It's like this infinite game, right? To quote Simon Sinek, it's an infinite game of business. And so if we only look at how it's something we can make money that we're good at, the business won't have any societal impact. It doesn't make a difference in the world. It's very hard to pitch that because it's only features and benefits at that point. But you can take those aspects, and if you can tie it into, we provide a product because the world needs this product and it's a valuable product and we can make money from it. We like delivering this product because our people have a passion for doing this and it allows us to grow as individuals. And then the world needs it because beyond business, it changes the world for the better in this way. It kind of loops in vision statement, mission statement, financial value, and having the right human capital all together. So I put a diagram of that on my profile, but it's just a very useful framework, I think, to check personal brands and corporate brands against. And it's just a useful tool for just many, many frameworks or many other decisions in life.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that in 2013-14, I was practicing and teaching permaculture.
Okay, cool. One more thing we haven't covered.
Yeah. I was, because one of the things that my NGO was doing is also ecology, environmental things, and saving mountain villages from dying. So one of the things I was trying to educate people over there, how to save waste, not to just throw it out, how to clear garbage dumps, not to make them inside the rivers, and how to live using the permaculture principles. So I was doing some of it myself. I was bringing people who are more experienced in that to show them how to build houses in a permaculture way, all those kind of things.
Very cool.
And yeah, so it's kind of interesting how things are setting up.
Yeah, it's one of those things like this is like just the power of what the good of social media I think can do with bringing people who have we're half a world apart physically, you know what I mean? But I think there's very little distance between us when it comes to the way we think and the things that we. It's just a proof that there's so much more that connects people in this world than that separates us.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay, guys. I think you heard a lot of good stuff from Michael, and I don't know about you, but I'm thinking about myself. I need to listen or to watch this for one more time at least to kind of gather all the things that are there, not only philosophical but also the practical things, because I think what you were saying are both, and it should be both always together, to kind of give us the wider perspective. But tell me, is there something that I didn't ask you and you want to talk about, and where can people find you?
Sure, I am. I'm daily active on LinkedIn. I like to post every day. I use the marketing muscle hashtag, so hashtag marketing muscle. You can also connect and follow me as my profile directly for. I combine philosophical and practical when it comes to marketing, and it comes to using marketing as a strategy framework for growth, whether it's a company or whether it's a personal brand. I'm building out a website presence too. It'll be mikephillips.online. Another source for just a hub for more information. I'm hoping to continue creating things. I just love creating content and creating value as an individual and as a professional. I just we all like I said, we all have so much in common. I'm just a working stiff, right? So I got a day job like everybody else, and I think the chance for us to be able to connect further, to grow from exchanging ideas with one another, is just so valuable. So I welcome those new conversations and being able to learn. So yeah, do connect with me. I'm the guy with the muscle and saxophone emojis in my name on LinkedIn.
Easily findable.
Yes.
Okay, Michael, thank you for doing this. Thank you for being my guest on the Funky Marketing Show. Guys, thanks for watching, listening. Talk to you another day with another great guest, and talk more deeper into B2B stuff. Keep it funky.